Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I will be doing the CSEC January 2020 paper 2 questions 3 and 4. So if you missed watching part 1 and 2, there is a link to that video somewhere on this video. You can go ahead and click it or check in the description below. And also, if you are visiting my channel for the first time, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you know when new videos are being uploaded. So let's get into this past paper. So this section covers the sustainable development and use of resources. So let's focus on the development of human resources. So 3 says, the first part, define the term dependency ratio. So we know the dependency ratio is a ratio of the number of people in the economically developed dependent age group. And when we say economically dependent, it means that not of working age. So between the ages of 0 to 14 years and 65 years and older, to the number of people who are actively working or of the labor force. So that's dependency ratio. The second part says the dependency ratio of a Caribbean country in 2017 was 51.5. What does this figure mean? So we know it's above 50. So this would indicate that there is a high dependent, or we could say half of the population is dependent on those who are of the labor force or those who are actively working. So therefore, we know that the higher the dependency ratio, we know the greater the financial burden or stress will be on those who are working. So it's a high dependency ratio here of the working class. So let's move on to this B part of the question. So here we have a population pyramid diagram. It says the figure below shows the population pyramid of a Caribbean country in 1990 and 2015. Study these pyramids carefully and then answer the questions which follow. And here they give us landmarks, as the gray represents men and the black represents women. And we have in the middle the age groups, and down the bottom we have the percentage. So here we go. The first part says, which age group comprised the largest percentage of the population in 1990? So in 1990, so if we look at the percentage between 1990, we could see here between the age group of 25 to 29, that was what had the largest percent, because here it's almost 12%, maybe 11% men, and then we have about 10% for women. So that's the age groups, age 25 to 29, 1 mark for that. The second part says, state 2 ways in which the age structure of the population changed from 1990 to 2015, 2 marks for that. Now, if you notice here, between 1990 and 2015, we notice that in terms of the younger population, we could see that there was, when we compare the two, there was a reduction in 2015. So, that would indicate, so there was a reduction in the percentage. So we know that could be various factors that could contribute to why there was a smaller percentage. So that could be that probably some of the young people, they perhaps died or some had migrated. So that's one reason. Also, another reason, if we look at the population, when you look at the aging group, when we compare the two, we see that there was a larger percentage in 2015 when compared to 1919. So that's another way we saw a change from 1990 to 2015. So there was an increase in the aging population. All right, let's move on to, so there is a reduction in youth, in younger generation, and the aging one increases. 3 says, outline one way in which an understanding of the changes in the age sex structure of the population may help the government to plan its spending. So we know, depending on the age sex structure of the population, looking at the pyramid, then that would indicate to the government, one, that if there are a lot of youths, if the rate is high, then we know that the government plan would have to include a lot more training facilities. They would have to maybe open up a lot more schools, educational facilities, so that they can provide work for the younger generation that will help to prepare them for that. Also, when it comes on to if the age sex structure of the population, the older age group is higher, it therefore means that the government would now have to implement important social services. You would have to put these in place to care for the elderly. For example, he may have to create more old age homes, we would call it, so as to facilitate these older ones. And also he may also have to put in proper structures, so that persons who are not of the working age or of retirement, then they are adequately prepared to provide the pensions for them, so that they can be taken care of. All right. So let's move on to number C. The development of human resources requires Commonwealth Caribbean governments to place greater emphasis on technical and vocational education and improving access to tertiary education. 1. Suggest to the Minister of Education 3 changes that could be made to the programs in educational institutions that may help to prepare citizens for the world of work in this technological age. And you are asked to explain how each of the changes you suggested in CI is likely to be successful. So the government, there are three changes that the government can make when it comes on to schools, educational institutions. One, what they can do is that students often, as we know in the world of work, the colleges and universities, they place a lot of emphasis on more of a theory nature. You get a lot of information, but when it comes on to hands-on training or more of a practical as it relates to the world of work, then that is lacking. So the Minister of Education could ensure that these institutions provide more practical training, so as to help to prepare them, so that they can be more fitting into the workplace. They are not lost when they enter the world of work. They know what to expect on the job. Another change that the government can make to these educational institutions is that what they can do is that they can allow these institutions to provide programs that every individual almost have access or can afford to pay for these skills or the training or whatever courses that they are doing so as to be better equipped to come into the world of work in this technological age. Um, so persons more so that more persons are readily the certification is more readily available to them because they can afford it. We know most of the time because some students cannot go further on because they can't afford it. So if these government implement these programs at an affordable price, then more students will be able to better equipped, prepared so as to be in the world of work. Another thing that the government could do, another change that the government can do is that they can allow for more skilled training be provided in the institutions, these educational institutions. And these training would be not just locally, but also internationally. So therefore, when persons are trained, they can go abroad and they can work. And so foreign exchange, we know it will be successful, could come back in the country. And so it will boost the economy of the country. So those are three changes that we know if the government put these programs, allow these programs to be in the educational institutions, we know it will be of a success. So that more and more people can be prepared for the world of work. So changes have to be made to the teaching styles and so on that takes place in these education so they are not lost when it comes to the world of work. So they know what to expect. Question 4 now. So we are looking at the regional integration section now. So natural disasters a major challenge to development in the Caribbean region. So we're asked to write an essay on the topic above in which you're going to define the term natural disaster and name two different types of natural hazards that can affect the region. Now, when we think of the term natural disaster, we know natural disaster really is like a sudden and terrible event. It's a sudden and terrible event. It's unexpected. And oftentimes we see that when we talk about natural disasters, we're referring to like hurricanes, tornadoes, volcano that results in serious damages and loss of life. So that's what natural disaster is. And they say we are to explain two ways in which two different types of natural hazards. Well, we said that we have hurricane. So we say two types of natural disasters are hurricane, we have volcanoes, we have tornadoes, earthquakes, and so on. Now, the second part says explain two ways in which natural disasters affect the economies of Caribbean countries. Now we know when natural disaster. So first of all, in explaining these two ways, first we mention one way in which natural disaster affect the economy of the Caribbean country. We know, for example, natural disaster, it actually destroys farmers' crops and it affects their livelihood, so to speak. So all of that is destroyed. And we know, for example, here in Jamaica, when there is a shortage of a certain product or crop, when it is being destroyed in natural disaster, we can more likely expect that there is going to be a increase in the price, because since there is a shortage, there's a higher demand for the crop, but there is a limited amount that is available. So prices will be increased. Now, another way in which natural disaster affect the economies of Caribbean countries. We know, for example, not just farmers are affected with their crops, also businesses are affected. So places of employment, companies and so on are affected. And so if the structure or the business is being damaged, it therefore means that there will be a shortages of jobs that are available. So it will affect the economy, because the buildings are being destroyed, and so that will affect the production of goods and services. So that's another way in which natural disaster affect the economies of Caribbean countries. The next part says, suggest 3 ways in which Caribbean countries may work together to cope with and recover quickly from disasters. Well, one way in which, 3 ways in which Caribbean are affected by disaster are: one, we know the Caribbean, for example, what they can do, Caribbean countries can do, they can donate relief support or packages that would involve food supplies and other equipments to countries that are affected. So they can do that in order to offset those countries, or to help them to get back on their feet, so to speak, in providing them with these goods and services to assist them. Another way too that Caribbean countries, what they can do is that um, they can assist by providing funds, for donating funds, money in monetary term, so that they can assist the countries that are affected badly by these natural disaster. So they can, come together and provide, like they can have like a funding account where countries can donate funds, money into that account, so as to help, you know, assist the countries that are being affected, so that all those resources put together can assist them to recover quickly as possible. So we're asked to outline one reason why each is likely to be successful. We know it will likely to be successful because any assistance rendered in each of these ways that we mentioned to any country, we know it will be of great support. So we know that it will be successful, because countries can able to lift themselves gradually out of the damages that have been done. So there you have it. So we have come to the end of this paper. We will considering other questions, so make sure that you stay tuned and subscribe so that you know when these videos are out. Thank you so much.